Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Fernandez, and I'm from the International Organization for Migration here in Tanzania. I am a migration management practitioner, so listening to Dr. Davis was it was awe-inspiring from the very economic point of view. I am here with my colleague who is in charge of EAC engagement, who is in charge of labor and human development projects. So if there are questions at the end of my, very short presentation on programs and on-the-ground projects, then Ms. Catherine Matasha will be able to handle that. Second of all, thank you, Stella, and such an honor to be at the same table with Dr. Davis. Other members of the diplomatic corps, the press, one UN colleagues, good morning. The UNCTAD report provides good indicators of development within Africa, from the starting point of the primarily intercontinental character of migration in Africa, and where intra-African migration is a catalyst for durable migration growth and development benefits and trade. The report's findings echo IOM's own policy findings in the region and is backed up by our concrete on-the-ground projects and programming. The UNCTAD report solidly reinforces the close interlinkages between migration and trade, where migration is impacted by and in turn affects trade in many, many ways. Migration, for example, plays a role in the following: investment into diverse economic sectors, labor market skill contributions to countries of origin and destination, utilization of remittances as investment economic sectors, including financial markets, exchange of technological know-how, even on the recirculation of technological know-how, and from a very, very cultural paradigm, trade in nostalgia goods and services. In a larger context, the economic offshoot of the migration trade nexus and dynamics also contribute to the achievement of larger SDG goals, as Dr. Davis had indicated. SDG 1 on poverty eradication, SDG 8 on decent work, where IOM acknowledges the importance of migrants in the overall growth of global economies, SDG 10 on reduction of inequalities, where it relates to the need for well-managed migration policies, SDG 11 on sustainable cities, where migrants help cities to thrive and become more vibrant, successful centers of economy and life, and SDG 17 on partnerships. What is IOM doing to harness the benefits of migration and trade? IOM implements remittances projects. An example would be mapping remittance corridors to help governments utilize remittances within overall national development efforts. IOM is also going towards looking at financing mechanisms for leveraging the impact of remittances and diaspora savings. IOM engages the diaspora, building trust with the diaspora to engage, enable, and empower them. And for skills exchanges, IOM calls this strategy the 3 E's. IOM does entrepreneurship development with an emphasis on the role of micro, small, and medium enterprise and employment generation, as well as capital creation, relevant to developing economies and considered key and suitable to economic development, as well as the welfare and progress of peoples and nations. Labor mobility and its contribution to the economy, where the ease of movement of workers is seen as a major factor in national growth and development. IOM links this to the policy recommendation on impending implementing existing policy, legal, and regulatory frameworks on the free movement of persons at the continental level. The whole of government approach to encourage governments to ensure that labor, home, and trade investment ministries work together to have coherent strategies that reflect across and within ministries. IOM relates this to the policy recommendation on building coherence in migration, trade, investment, and technology policies in creating the conditions for structural transformation, and to adapt general perspectives in migration policy and regulatory frameworks. Global Compact for Migration. As everybody knows, the UN Global Compact on Safe, regular, and orderly migration is what would be an intergovernmental agreement by the end of 2018. In fact, the version 2 of the compact has just been released last week. The GCM started with the UN General Assembly hosting a high-level summit in New York in 2016, which marked the very first time world leaders and governments came together at the UN with the common aim of improving international cooperation and governance of migration issues. This also shows how important international migration issues have become on the international stage as we speak. IOM echoes the policy recommendation that the world must hear and see Africa taking its own migration narrative to the global stage as a manifestation of Africans' own strengthening of the commitment to safe, orderly, and regular international migration. IOM's role in the GCM process, which as of just a couple days ago, IOM was designated to be the coordinator of the newly established UN Network on Migration to ensure effective, coordinated, and coherent system-wide support to GCM implementation. As coordinator, IOM sees a direction towards urging regional economic communities to integrate migration and the principle of co-development into their policy frameworks, towards contributing to the policy recommendation establishing regional and continental mechanisms for harnessing the benefits of intra-African migration for structural transformation. So let me go to what IOM is doing in Tanzania relevant to development, migration, and trade. So IOM is supporting the government enhance the migration evidence base of Tanzania, support to diaspora and the diaspora department, the EAC and the secretariat, trainings towards engaging diaspora, including support for the country's annual diaspora homecoming conferences. IOM is also doing a study on the development of an electronic work permit system, and always with the government and relevant government stakeholders as partners. IOM is also giving technical support for the review of the employment policy of 2018. IOM also and the government is doing research assessing existing and current labor market information systems in Tanzania. And IOM is facilitating a comparative study of labor mobility. This is between Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Tanzania. So all in all, with IOM's migration management mandate to harness the positive benefits and effects of migration, whether migration is forced migration, whether it is about regulating migration, whether it is about facilitating regular migration and migration and development programming on the ground, with IOM's participation in global intergovernmental efforts and processes, there will be no lack of areas for IOM to work forward migration trade. There will be a lack of areas for IOM to forward migration and trade, and together with other UN agencies to be on the forefront of this move. With that, I thank you.